Hello there, and welcome to yet another episode of the Ugandan podcast that is powered by the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. As always, I'm your host, Rita Kanya Mujuni. So welcome. Now, for this particular episode, the conversation is about roads in Kampala City. The central business district, let me put it that way. And a name and a face that might be not far from your mind. Could be familiar, very familiar for those of social media, and maybe if you've been following the news. In his recent role as the Kampala Capital City Authority spokesperson, Simon Kasyate, I was warned if I put Mr. anywhere, this podcast will not be recorded.
But also the good side is that at least we've been alive and well enough to go through the Kampala roads and make it for this conversation.
Yes.
The conversations on Twitter seem to imagine that you can't actually get out of your house to any part of this city because the roads will simply swallow you up.
Yes.
Which is
or some parts of your car will not make it out of that pothole.
Even those that don't have cars seem to always have a problem having to go to garages. So you wonder why they go to fix ankles, knees, or joints. But well, that's the state of our city.
Welcome, Simon.
Most obliged.
Now,
happy to be here.
Happy to have you. We'll start off the podcast with just that particular thing, the complaint that Ugandans have. The ones who don't drive, the ones who maybe use a border, but they use the roads. One way or another, they use the roads. I will say that maybe my car has had a few repairs here and there, but we'll get into that just now. As the authority, you recently took on the progress. We want to know the progress of the Kampala Capital Roads Rehabilitation Project. I'd say that very carefully. KCRRP. A 1.1 trillion project.
Shillings.
Yeah, trillion shillings project. Let's go. Guys, we're in Uganda.
Okay, let's just say the project is looking at close to 100 kilometers of roads in the city. Now, Rita and the listeners, you'll agree with me that 100 kilometers in the city is many roads, because an ordinary average city road is less than a kilometer or maybe 1 point something kilometers. My favorite road in this city is the Winton Road. It can barely make half a kilometer. So imagine if you have those to make about 100 kilometers. So it's many roads. It's over 30 roads. It's revolutionary in the sense that we're going to have, for the first time, a number of city roads getting the much desired facelift and rehabilitation. Perhaps some getting it for the first time in over 20 years. This city, just to give you perspective, has over 2,100 kilometers of road network. But you won't believe it, Rita, that less than 30% of those actually have tarmac on them. The rest are gravel roads. But even those that have tarmac on them, they've less than 700 kilometers of road, have possibly not seen major repairs on them in 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
Some, like Prince Charles Drive in Colorado, possibly have not seen a major repair on them since they were constructed in the 50s. So that is the state of the roads in the city that we are inheriting at this particular time as KCCA. The good news, though, is that this project is on board, and we have roads that are scattered across the 5 divisions of the city that have been earmarked, placed into 5 lots. Procurement of the contractors done, contracts signed, and yes, works began in earnest in February of this year. Now, we're speaking in April, and many would wonder, what works are you talking about,
Exactly.
Simon?
And I was just about to ask you, because when we say we're going to see a few things change on the roads, would it be widening of the roads? For many, the focus is, hey, this pothole needs to go.
Forget about the widening, the beautification, just fix the pothole.
Yes, exactly. So what exactly is going to be happening to these roads?
Why? Before I tell you what exactly is happening on these roads now, let me tell you what the roads will look like. Now, for a moment, close your eyes and look at Port Bell Road. That's from Wampeo. No, that's Old Port Bell Road, from Wampeo all the way to Bogolobi T Junction at the MTN switch.
Yeah.
You also close your eyes and look at the road outside Moobs from the Nakawa streetlights up to that particular point. And then from that MTN T Junction up to Port Bell Paya. Close your eyes and see it with a 2-lane on either side boulevard, complete with covered drainages, an island of green in the middle with 2 armed street lighting. And yes, the major junctions like that T junction in Bugolobi will have signalized lights.
My eyes are closed. They keep opening up, but yeah, I'm envisioning this.
If it is a dream, that's the reality that's going to be there in less than 36 months from today. So these roads are going to be widened for the most part, are going to be made better with improved drainages, because we realize that the lifespan of our roads largely is as a result of there not being adequate drainage and the right road furniture. But also beyond just providing us a good surface road and widened roads, this project is going to bestow onto this city 6 roadside markets for women and youth so that there is some commerce going on even as the roads are applied. We're going to have 30 public toilets as part of this project scattered across the 5 divisions. Rita, there are places in this town, if nature's call visited you, you'll possibly find yourself in an embarrassing situation because there's no public sanitary facility for you to attend to, and doesn't distinguish whether you're a man or woman. And that's why for the most male folks in this town, you know what they do.
Nature
by the tree, by the wall. Some of the walls have this serious signpost, Tofu Kawano,
but someone will still do it.
They will hold a 50,000 shilling note in their hands and urinate right over there. We've seen it with not even the dredges of the earth in this city, but senior and you would say distinguished members of society, politicians and all that, caught on camera doing that kind of stuff. So this project is going to bestow unto us great furniture for our roads and scattered across. Will it be the magic bullet? No, Rita, unfortunately. It's just 100 kilometers of a city of 2,100 kilometers. So it also means that KCCA is looking beyond this project to ensure that we have other sources of funding and other projects to sort out the other parts of the city that do not have. In fact, some of those works have also begun. For example, we are building a traffic control center. If you visited City Hall right now, you will see a building being built next to City Hall that's going to house a traffic control center. What will this center be doing? We've designed and looked at the city and realized that much of the traffic holdups are as a result of bad design and, for the most part, junctions and roundabouts.
Yes.
So we are now removing most major roundabouts that act as choke points into the city and creating cloverleaf junctions or strange junctions like what you see at the golf course. So if I were you, I keep telling people this, I would go take a selfie at the Malago roundabout, the Kubili roundabout, and the one right outside Grand Imperial Hotel. For those who will not be there by the end of this year, we'll have signalized junctioning up there. So all these signals will now feed into a traffic control center, which will use Japanese technology, not the usual we count. There are some places in this town where they say the traffic lights release half a car.
Yeah.
Now we're not going to do that.
I want to mention them, but we won't get into
exactly.
that.
So we're going to use an advanced moderato system, that's what they call it, it's a Japanese system, to intelligently read traffic movement on sections and start releasing cars in some kind of domino. That if you are there at that right time and they have opened, you are opened at this particular spot, at the next spot, and the next spot, so that there's seamless flow of traffic.
Okay.
Is there evidence of works going on the ground? Many of us are doubting Thomas's, but I'll tell you what, go there right now at the Spear Motors Nakawa Junction. Right now, as I speak, there are works going on to improve that junction area, erect new traffic lights. Traffic lights on that junction have not been working for the last decade or so.
It's been a long time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're moving one junction to another. And we're not just working on the junction, but also working about 300 meters from the junction centerpiece. So you can imagine that road outside Spear Motors for 300 meters towards URA main entrance and on either side of the road. So there's quite a lot of this that's going on. We also have other projects that we intend to start in collaboration with a big company of British descent called Colas. Maybe that explains why most tarmac roads are called Colas, because that was the company that made the first tarmac roads in this country. So we have signed an MOU with them, and we're looking at how best, working with them through some smart financing agreement, we can put in place some, indelible marking as far as road infrastructure is concerned. But as I conclude on that, let me bring you now to the current pet project of the Kampala City Roads Rehabilitation Project. I mentioned that works begin in February. I can swear to you, Rita, on February the 1st, 0.5. No, people didn't even wait for February the 2nd. On February 1.5, they were up on Twitter and said, Simon, you told us work begin in February.
We are waiting.
Where
is the work?
are the works? Now, this is what was happening. The contractors for these 5 lots, unfortunately or fortunately, whichever you look at it, happen to be non-Ugandan companies. So when the works begin for them, it means come into Uganda and start your works. What does it mean for them? Come set up shop. So they are looking for places to rent, set up offices. They're beginning to hire local staff, from masons you find on the road to spokespeople like myself and other vocations. They are sourcing for local materials, because one thing is for sure, they're not going to bring wood from China to come and work on roads in Uganda. So they are sourcing for local materials, and sourcing for materials is a painstaking, long process. Why? Because if I contract Rita to supply me cement and 12 months down the road you go bust, I have to go and look for someone else? No. So what they're doing is we source from about 4 people, grade them and put them in line. But even after getting the raw materials or the working materials, they must subject them to tests of quality through the bona fide government agencies, UNBS, National, the Ministry of Works and all that, through their respective laboratories. They also have now to acquire land for, as a yard where they'll park their trucks and all that. In the meantime, they're waiting for their equipment, much of which is coming from outside Uganda. Yeah. Then for a road like Port Bay Road, which I just mentioned, the one from Bugolobi to Zira Chitintari, it's going to be widened. It means the current location of electricity lines, water lines, will have to be extended. Yeah. So negotiations are also going on as part of works with, say, National Water and Sewerage Corporation, UMEME and other entity service providers to relocate. And if you go right now, outside Moobs itself, near Capital Shoppers, you will see water lines being shifted to the peripheries of what should have been the road reserve. Now, all that is mobilization. And that's what has been going on for the most part since February. Mobilization can take up to even 4 to 5 months. So that's what we're going through. But the impatient, and rightly so, Kampala dweller would not want to see that nonsense you're telling them of their mobilizing, recruiting stuff.
Because I was going to say, by the time the announcement came out,
they want to see graders
why are we taking so much time here?
Exactly. But you see, Rita, I've told people repeatedly that to have a good omelette, allow the eggs to break. So we're breaking the eggs painstakingly. It's going to take some kind of patience from all of us, but it's going to take a lot of devastation in terms of diversions, in terms of dust, in terms of mud, because works are really... I mean, when you go to a restaurant and get served your favorite dish, presented very well on a plate, Rita, I can swear to you, what has happened in the kitchen, you have no idea. Vegetables are being chopped up, things are being pounded, breads are breaking. Yeah. But at the end of the day, that is part of the mix to give you a good road. So as KCCA, one thing is for sure, when it's all said and done, 36 months from today,
we want it in 3 years' time.
In 3 years' time.
In 3 years' time.
We do not want to be accused of having bestowed unto Uganda roads that are not car-worthy. Certainly not. So we will do what we ought to do through the right processes, aware of the current state of affairs, but deliver a good road. A final one on this one. Aware of how bad the roads are. Anyway, when the contractors came to pick their contracts in February, we told them, look, guys, you will do your mobilization, source your materials, hire your workers, we don't mind. But this is the catch. Can you start at least backfilling the potholes so that the roads are motorable as we wait for you to do the big stuff? And so we call that forward maintenance. Now they got into that mix and started, backfilling the potholes and ensuring that the roads are at least motorable. Unfortunately, around the same time, we had these rains that were certainly uncalled for. Yes. Now people are always saying, okay, CCA, can you imagine you're filling up potholes with soil, with maram?
Is this what we need really?
And I tell them, what would you rather we fill them up with? Gold filings? Certainly every road has maram as a base, has rocks under there. But unfortunately, you have to put maram, then you've got to compact, then you wait for some days, because it's a natural process of, having these roads done. Have them fixed with tarmac after some days. But as the days come, it rains, washes away. Because we are doing all these works without asking Rita, your family, your friends, and everyone listening to me in Kampala to get out of town. I mean, it could have been one thing to say, guys, get out of town.
This road is
for 6 months. Or we fix the road, then you come back. No. The town will remain active, alive, and buzzing as we do the works. So, and that's why it's taking a bit longer for shorter roads, but we must be cognizant of the fact that we are working in a highly active environment that Kampala is.
So as we ask the Ugandan citizen who's using these roads, please be patient with the authority. But one of the challenges that you have faced with this particular project is the angry citizen. That citizen that wants things done, let's just put it as the hostile citizen who's not willing to actually let a few people do their work the way they would want them to do it. But then there's also that other citizen that you've talked about, and you're saying we'll be able to create for you these marketplaces.
Absolutely.
Well, the authority has been through some of these situations where the markets are created, and for some strange reason, they're not going there. What's going to be different with this? Because it seems the authority has something in mind, but the citizen that's supposed to be taking up these opportunities is also saying, no, we want this instead.
Yeah. And that's the challenge we have to face, having solutions that are fully embraced by the citizenry, that are for the citizens. In the designing of these roads and creating these workspaces, for example, we were going under the model of there's nothing for us without us. So wide consultation was made. We have a huge team of sociologists that, have engaged with our both ordinary citizens, the leadership of the citizenry, to ensure that the solutions or the benefits that come in from these projects are actually tailor-made. I mean, markets for women and youth is an answer to what we just did to the hawkers. We kicked hawkers out of this city, rightly so, for decongestion purposes and creating good aesthetics of a good city. Yeah. But the questions remained. You are chasing us away from here. To go where? Have you prepared spaces for us? And they had a valid question.
Yes.
So now the answer is coming in through some of these markets and other interventions. The angry citizen, Rita, I'll tell you what. Every citizen in this country, rightly so, ought to be angry when it comes to matters of public service, or should I say social service amenities not meeting their expectation.
Yes.
You don't even have to qualify to be a taxpayer. As long as you're a citizen of Uganda, you deserve better.
Yes.
You deserve better roads, you deserve better healthcare, you deserve better education and everything in that realm. But also, on the other hand, as we do so and demand better from our authorities, let us also cut the authorities some slack, especially when they come to announce this good news. And I can understand where the frustration comes from. Oftentimes, we citizens have been fed on lip service, empty promises, and all these grandiose, wonderful pictures precipitated and curated by good orators like myself. And so people say, come on, the project was just as good as the lip service of Mr. Kasyate.
Yes.
Then on the ground, there's nothing. I can tell you, I will also personally lead, and I'm sure my leadership, because the executive director is very passionate about this project, I can swear to you, she will lead at the forefront every agitation that needs to be done to ensure that these contractors deliver a good product to agreed specifications within agreed timelines and to the agreed budgetary allocation.
And I was going to go.
That's the commitment.
Are we going to make sure that we will see that come to light?
Without a doubt.
How will we hold you accountable? Because at the moment, where the Ugandans are trying to hold you accountable is on social media. You said 1st of Feb has come. What's happening? Now, we're telling the Ugandan out there who's using Kampala that, give it 3 years.
3 years.
Things will have changed.
Then 5 years down the road, you're telling them other services. I don't think that's going to take place, Rita. I'll tell you what. The Kampala also ought to be realistic in the sense that building or rehabilitating a road, just like building a house, is not a one-day affair. We've seen houses that are built in record time having challenges later because not enough painstaking consideration has been made in ensuring that things are done right. But also, like I said, we are building in a highly active environment where we expect that folks are using the same place that we are constructing in. Of course, arguments have been advanced. Simon, you can cut down on this time if especially your workers work at night or use weekends and all that. But Rita, as the party capital of the region, Kampala is awake both day and night.
At night, yeah.
So there will also be other ramifications, when we work at night. But also importantly, let us agree that you imagine you're sewing a dress under the God-given sunlight, and someone is doing the same work at night. The quality levels may not be the same.
Yes.
And also you cannot guarantee that the worker, the mason on the site, actually did abide by the requirement to have rest during the day so that he's able to work proficiently at night. Yeah. But also when you work at night, you are consuming a certain service called electricity. And this service doesn't come free. And I don't think that was much factored into the cost of the road. So we will try to use as much, here and there innovation to ensure that we deliver within good time, but also answer to the growing frustration of the Kampalan who wants to have their roads fixed. Not today, not tomorrow, but yesterday.
We're talking about that Kampala now.
Yes.
The uproar that has taken center stage on social media. Maybe I will say that, yes, I happen to pass by the streets of Twitter a number of times. And I say you actively respond to these people that come up with their queries. Some, like you said, might be exaggerated here and there. They may not really be the road user. But let's take a look at the average Ugandan road user in Kampala. And that one, vis-a-vis the one that is actually on social media. What's the difference?
Well, I don't want to profile folks for who they are and how they express their anger. But one thing is for sure, on social media, you'll find an interesting array of people. You'll find someone that has never or would never have the proficiency to fly a kite. A kite? This is a thing that children fly, or even a balloon. But you'll find him or her on Twitter eloquently and emotively advising NASA on how to land a spacecraft on Mars. Like, you can't fly a kite, but you are castigating NASA
on how they should
for having a hard landing on Mars.
Yeah.
So now, then there's the group that will forget about what you're talking about. They will go for you by the jugular and attack you as an individual and accuse you of all sorts of things. So they will go ad hominem. Then there will be those that will want genuinely to find out exactly what are you providing. So there is different strokes for different folks, and that's my approach on Twitter. I'm also a firm believer in Newton's third law of motion. I'm sure you've seen me argue that, to say every action receives an equal but opposite reaction. When you come at me like that, usually I also try to give you a response equal in the same currency. So we have what we call fun outside, serious on the inside. We are both witty, depending on how you come at us. We try to give examples that are apt. We try to create a conversation. We try to reduce on the tensions. We try to communicate in such a manner that a guy who comes so emotively angry and is actually abusing, you give him a bit of their medicine, but also then retract on your steps and say, come on, he's doing this not because he actually has something personal with you. Never mind, some will of course be personal, but the level of frustration at your service is what's driving them to be this desperate. And so for them, that's a space where they are venting. Finally, you also recognize that social media is like the bar stool. My friends with whom we go to these places to imbibe and have conversations around the bar, that is where all equality is. In fact, there is in my local language, there's a saying in my local language that equality is at the bar. When you are at the bar stool, whether you're a chief or a staff, you are imbibing the same stuff. And so when you both get inebriated, you can tell each other stuff, you uncarry things.
Yes.
And the bar draws in different types of people. Some would never have ordinarily met in usual times. So on social media, you'll find someone that would never have met you, Rita, anywhere in their happy or miserable life. But they are finding you on the streets of Twitter and they are going to engage with you as an equal, or perhaps even treat you as less of a citizen. How you relate with them is an issue of emotional intelligence, personal disposition, and the like. But if you work for KCCA, like I do at this particular time, you have to learn that you are in there to get cooked. No one goes there to throw you flowers.
Are you slowly being boiled? Are you being fried?
They cook you in all forms. They roast you, they fry you, they punch you up, and some of them want to actually eat you raw.
But you find a way of surviving each and every single time.
Very good. Now, beyond eating you, they will even put a bee at the eve, beat you. So
but you somehow survive. For now, we're going to take a break from the roads and the conversation and try and get to know you as Simon. What makes you Ugandan?
Wow. What makes me Ugandan?
Yeah.
The food. I'll tell you what, you would know that I'm Ugandan if you ask me what my favorite dish is.
What is your favorite dish?
Steamed matoke.
Okay.
That's the only carbohydrate I eat in peace. And then if there's a bit of groundnut on it, and I want to pronounce it like a typical Ugandan, some ghee-nut.
Yes. Is that what you prefer to pair it with? Let's go. Fine dining.
And then, of course, some ghee-nuts on the matoke and a meat. Any meat, I'll tell you what, meat. And
in all forms, roasted meat,
right
boiled.
There. Exactly. So that for me is my preference. If there's a bit of katunguma, well and good. So cuisine, food, I would never trade my nationality if it has anything to do with removing the food item out. If you said, will you be anything but we'll keep you the Ugandan food? Hey, it's okay. Take me. But if you say, but no food.
No matoke.
No.
You'll have to rethink it.
Yes. So and there are other things that people stereotype Ugandans to have. Maybe very polite, nice mannered.
That doesn't make you Ugandan at all.
No one has accused me of being that really in that realm. So you can accuse me of being Ugandan by maybe my accent, which I also did not know I have such an accent. But that's it.
Yeah. Well, let's now talk about the misconceptions. Top 3 misconceptions that Ugandans or people out there have about Kampala.
Let me just start with the one about not just Kampala as a city, but Kampala Capital City Authority. Even I, before I joined this incredible place, I had the belief, a firm conviction that nothing goes on at City Hall, that people there don't think, they don't work, they possibly come in after 9, take a 2 hours lunch break and exit at 3 p.m. That nothing was going on.
But then you joined.
Oh boy. I got in there and I found people put in the midnight oil, they burn their heels, they do a lot of incredible work. Do they do it well? I'm not the best judge. Are they, effective and efficient in what they are doing? Still, I am not the best judge. Are they shackled like hell? Of course, imagine you're in a boxing ring with your legs and hands tied, and the guy before you is Mike Tyson. So you can imagine the beating that you would get. And that's what an ordinary Kampala Capital City Authority person goes through. And it gets even worse for the top executive of the authority. You're in there superintending over this incredible place with a promise and target to transform a capital city of a country. But the resources to do so, especially financial resources, are really coming in piecemeal. And she's been very emotive in sharing. For example, we are in this state of affairs with our roads, largely because our roads rehabilitation budget comes in as, well, I don't want to call it a drop in the ocean, but if you ask for 100 and they give you 30, really, the best you can do is cut your coat according to your cloth. So that misconception that Kampala Capital City Authority does not work, does not feel like collecting rubbish, does not feel like putting new roofs over asbestos-roofed primary schools, which we superintend over, does not feel like providing good healthcare services through our Directorate of Public Health and Environment, does not, want to repair culverts, or that we just parcel away public land, or that we just, allow people to denigrate wetlands. No, matter of fact, we try, but we can only do so much. But the improvement is going to be there because increasingly with new staff and management and their styles and their resolve, many of them come with a rich history from where they have been, where failure has never been associated with them. So they don't want to come to City Hall. I'm saying City Hall HALL to end up at City HOLE and sink. So that for some of us is the reason we're still hanging in there. The second misconception is that really this place would have been doing very well if it were not for corruption.
Okay.
That KCCA guy, see corruption. Rita, okay, tell me, do I look corrupt? Really?
They don't say much. These days they say we're not sure who's the one who's corrupt and who's not corrupt.
Absolutely. So yes, the corruption at KCCA, and I cannot say without a fear of contradiction that it is none, is symptomatic of who we are as a society, as Ugandans.
Yeah.
I find it interesting. Someone is there castigating corruption, having given a bribe to a police officer on the road. So for me, the give and take and whatever magnitude were the same. As a country, I think we're having a very big challenge in terms of moral fabric. So what you see reflected with what you see at KCCA is a reflection of what our society is. Because guys at KCCA are your brothers and sisters. They are cut from the same cloth as you.
And they use the roads that we use every single day. All the services that are provided. Someone
asked me on Twitter, but you, Simon, do you actually live in Kampala? I said yes. Do you actually use this road? I said yes. And I've been here for almost 50 years. Rita, you won't believe it. I have led my community there along Robert Mugabe Road in Mbuya on a demonstration against KCCA when we were agitating for our road. So I know full. I've been there. I am
and now you're here.
The only problem is Robert Mugabe Road is such a beautiful boulevard. It has reduced on the traffic choke point of Chinawataka Road. But no one there talks. Now they're all saying, the roads in Kampala are bad. The roads in Kampala are bad. Not a single pothole, not even a period paint on Robert Mugabe Road. And that's the thing with the Kampalans. When their personal problems get solved,
they just go.
They either keep quiet, and those are the best. I appreciate those who keep quiet. But there are others who shift goalposts and start blaming
just
you for another problem.
Yeah, they're playing pressure so their people can also get it.
I've seen a guy in Kulambiro, which was the dust capital of this city. Kulambiro. You know Kulambiro Ring Road?
Yes.
It was hell on earth.
That's terrible.
I see the guy now also joining residents of Salama Road.
Well, he's cruising.
But that's all good. The solidarity is very important, but they don't have much time left. In the next 36 months, everything will be okay. Third and last of the misconceptions. I think folks here think that KCCA is such a brute force, considering how we enforce some of the things that we do enforce. When you see a muscled guy wrestling bananas out of this destitute woman whose stock is less than 10,000 shillings, and she's doing this to fend for her family, and they throw her at the back of a police pickup, and she never gets her merchandise back because if they remand her for 3 days, it's bananas. 3 days later, there's possibly now manure. Then the way so it's a catch-22 that you ask our enforcement guys, go and clean the city of this. Then they find a desperate and empowered citizen who said, you are not touching me. So in that... Exactly. So you find an altercation of sorts. And it becomes such a mess in terms of aesthetics and how we are seen in terms of empathy, in terms of customer service. But yet we preach to our enforcement guys customer-oriented service. You can't believe it that we had talks with them on customer service issues. But there's a solution that's coming up.
Which is because one of the things is that I will first leave you there for just a minute, since you have brought it up now.
We're going to wear body-worn cameras, just like you see with the police in the US, which has always been accused of doing things behind people's backs. So soon you'll see all our enforcement officers with body-worn cameras that are recording footage in terms of video and audio, so that Teddy, he said, she said, But then the question is, how do we handle these ones right now? That's a dicey one, Rita.
Yeah, how do we handle them, because they continue to do these things?
Like I said, their days are numbered. Yeah. Technology is coming in. And the executive director has been preaching a mantra that I want to reiterate on this program, the smart city agenda, where we are leveraging technology, coupling it up with infrastructure for the well-being of people. Mark the keywords: technology, infrastructure, people. Tip. So, technology, body-worn cameras, for example, to ensure that you don't say, he's the one who pointed the finger first. No, the technology is there. When you have the rightful infrastructure, markets, schools, roads, and then, without a doubt, that will improve the well-being of the ordinary Munachibuga or the Kampala citizen.
We'll wait for the day.
It's actually
we will be back to this conversation. But as they say, Simba wakatao tujakoma. But as we now get back into the conversation of roads, the names. I like how just for a moment you mentioned the name Robert Mugabe.
Yes.
It's a conversation that has been going on over the years. And is there possibly a change coming around? Will we see things switch from the foreign names that these roads now have to maybe more? Is Zemchibuga says, okay, I wouldn't expect a Rita Kanya Road anywhere, but I know that there are people who have come before us, and I believe that there could be a name or more than just one name that could be used.
I've always asked, who was this guy, DeWinton?
Can we go back and
It's my favorite street. Who is DeWinton? Okay, Said Barre, I know him, former president in Somalia. Colville was, I think, a guy that really entrenched colonialism in this country, and we're celebrating with a road here. People are saying us now, this guy is getting enthroned as a king. So is the road named after him going to change from Prince Charles to King Charles? Then I said, well, then what about Elizabeth Avenue becomes the late Elizabeth? So there's all this around roads. Rita, there is an elaborate process of having roads in the city named the way they are named. There has to be some kind of overriding petition that goes through a sitting of council at both central level up to the division level. Resolutions are made, then the sensitization on the ground to get acceptability of the people right there on the ground, and then they agree that now this name can be Wampeo Avenue, or possibly let's change it to Haji Bulaimu Road. So we've seen those cases where indeed there is a good move towards naming certain roads against prominent Ugandan personalities who have contributed immensely in different fields. But then you also recognize that many of these roads are hosting properties that have name and title, and much of this is encumbered or is somewhere in the banks. So changing a name may have some ramifications in as far as the financing of some of these properties is concerned, but that's an issue for another consideration. What's for sure is, indeed, there's been an agitation to decolonize the naming of our roads. But the conversation, unfortunately, is going beyond just decolonizing. I'll give you a case in point. I'm not trying to mention it. We are grappling with a road in Buziga. It's Buziga Hill Lane. But there's an individual there, high prominent Ugandan, prominent person that deserves even 10 roads about his name. And him and his neighbors are fighting over the name of the road. Why? He believes the name should be named, the road should be named him. And he got actually the clearance from the local leadership of Machinde Division and put his name there. It was on social media, his profession, and all sorts of titles. He has it looked like an alphabetical church.
I did see it,
Exact justice, professor, everything. Great. But his neighbors said no. For us, we want Buziga Hill Lane.
Let it stay the way it was.
The way it is. No doubt, you're a prominent guy. And the justice system in this country, you are a colossus. Legislative contribution, you're a Colossus, will find a road near some court or some
and give it
to you, but not. The guy says, no, I want it here. So
it has to be here where
there are all these conflicts. On my own road where I live, on plot 5 Church Close in Mbuya, my neighbor, the pastor, who doesn't live there, he just works at the church, decided to name the road Pastor So and So Close. We had a thief, gladly, he had done it ultra vires. For me, the law stood by myself and the other residents, and the name was changed. We made an appeal. We wrote a petition to KCCA. I hadn't even joined, so you wouldn't say there was influence peddling. This was done way before I even joined. So there are all these agitations for change of name, but there must be due process followed. And the due process is clearly laid out in an elaborate process. And if we can get that done, well and good. Decolonization of the roads, okay, wouldn't be a bad idea. But again, how about preservation of our actual history? That some of these names remain there to remind us of our history. But whatever it is,
one would say we can rewrite history.
Well,
our own history now, our own narrative.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So whichever way it goes, KCCA is a facilitator in the process, in the sense that let those for or against follow due process, and KCCA with now an elaborate GIS locator system, where, by the way, anywhere in the world, using Google Maps and other applications, you are able to locate a location, complete the property number. And that has been a huge technological advancement KCCA has brought on board. The idea of saying, Oja kunsanga wali kayembe wali wa mama gundi kuchifene, the day they have cut the tree,
if the Rolex guy decides to move to a better...
Exactly. Yeah. Also places with a gonja woman, you're cooked.
Steamed gonja, roasted gonja, which one is it for you?
Well, it has to be roasted. Okay. I know the one you prefer, especially when it comes to maize, but even that
one
roasted.
Still. All right. The maize conversation we have tried to move away from.
The jury is still out there.
There was a fire that was started.
For some of you, it's actually a matter of life and death.
Yes. Well, now moving on to the car-free day.
Yes.
Seeing Ugandans try and put an effort, having them exercise more, because it was a thought that counted as the authority saying, if we have people maybe taking some more time to exercise and also less pollution of the city on some days. How was the response to the car-free day? Being
the inaugural one, there was a bit of a lukewarm response in the sense that, you must couple it up with a bit of fanfare. So we're being asked, does it have a semblance of the Kampala Carnival? So then we come and party. You know how you don't get someone out of their home on a weekend to just tell them, pedestrian walkway is there, you look left there. No, there must be some kind of incentive. So we picked up the feedback, and I can tell you, Rita, the next editions of the Car-Free Day will be something of a carnival. However, we do not want to, again, be lost in the euphoria of the carnivalese and forget the message we're trying to put across. Rita, in this city today, our biggest challenge are not epidemics like Ebola and COVID, which are communicable diseases. It's the non-communicable diseases that are killing all of us because we are living a sedentary life. We are sitting in traffic, in offices, on the streets, wherever. We are not exercising, we are breathing in bad air, and that has an effect on, we're eating bad food and the like. You may want to exercise and walk to your house, in Kololo, in Muyenga, wherever it is, but is there a space for you to comfortably walk alongside the motorized transport for you to get your destination? And so KCCA has challenged itself. From the cry and hear of citizens, of course, we are responsive to say every road, for example, the Kampala City Roads Rehabilitation Project, each of those roads, over 30 roads I'm telling you about, will have a pedestrian walkway, properly gazetted, a cyclist's lane, and then the motorized part of it.
No border borders will be trying to.
We are going to fight with our friends, the border borders, to respect pedestrian walkways. You know those guys, they respect, they could even ride on top of another car. They have no boundaries, but we'll ensure that there's a process of sanitizing the border industry. That's a long story for another time. So it's to say we're going to improve our physical infrastructure, the roads, to cater for that person that prefers to walk. Maybe because they are fighting a non-communicable disease, or they are part of what I call the grand walking class. You have no opportunity to get around. You have a bicycle, but you need to get around. So the consciousness that cities increasing, especially Kampala, are centers of pollution. The cars themselves are a source of pollution. The activities that we carry on now here are a source of pollution. When you have a car-free day, when you free the streets of this choke that they face on a daily, get the citizens to come in and they see some of these streets for the first time without the cars, for them to appreciate not just the beauty of the city, but to feel and breathe the city. We also are cognizant of the fact that our city is beautiful. I mean, it's located in the chest of undulating hills. So you'd want people to come in and have some kind of tourism activities. Children skate around. I mean, can you imagine just seated on Speak Road in the middle of the road and just playing a board game with your child, or just even just walking them or riding them in the middle of the street as you walk. Just close your eyes. Your husband in tow holding your right hand, your daughter cycling right in front of you in the middle of Speak Road.
That's a memory too.
Exactly, that's a memory to behold.
Yeah. But I would say that personally, it's always been a thing that on Sunday afternoons, I'll take a walk around Sheraton, the Independence Monument.
Great.
And it's a moment for you to take the pictures, to create your memories. I have my own, and I did that on Sunday afternoons. You know, Sunday afternoon, there's no one in town.
Guess
People
what?
are getting ready for the
We,
week.
the older folk, still remember a time in this country when Sunday afternoons, there was one place where alcoholic drinks were served. I hadn't yet gotten to alcohol consuming age,
And soft drinks.
but I would go with my father to the Sheraton Gardens on Sunday afternoon, because that's when the beer was served. So a truck would come park there and they serve beer. Now, at that time, beer was beer, no brands or nothing, because we had no supplies in this country. That's the 80s.
The brown bottles were being given.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that kind of memory to say the city is choking every single day, the population is increasing, human activity is rising, but there should be a moment where we stop, reflect, decongest. I'll tell you what, these developed cities that we for so long admire and want to be, you should know how they admire Uganda, Kampala, for at the moment it's air quality, and they pray we never get the level of pollution that they have.
Yeah.
Where you find that even children have no spaces, like play parks, where there is no. If I have an appointment with you, Rita, for 3 o'clock, but I've left home at midday, and I don't want to be seen idling around, which green park should I go to and just chill and wait for you within the city? None of that. So all that is KCCA thinking that we need to create a workable, livable, and lively city that meets all our needs.
Well, you just walked right into the next question, which is yes.
That's the advantage of having been there.
Yeah. You know how the conversation might just go.
you.
How is the authority making the Kampala city livable for the Ugandan today and the Ugandan tomorrow and the next generation? For us who are speaking from the parents' perspective now. Yeah.
There's been a lot of call, and I see it in different places, saying, I think this city it has hit its, the growth curve is sigmoid in nature, S-shaped. So we've hit our peak, and the next thing is decline.
Coming down.
So per se, we can build another capital city elsewhere and all that.
Yes.
Fair enough, but at the moment, KCCA is in charge of this, our current capital city. What do we do to ensure that it's in fact livable and enter the smart city agenda that has been championed by this incredible lady, the executive director of Kampala City Council Authority, Dorothy Kisaka? Her positing is, this is our space to live and work. It's also the same space in which we shall attract visitors, either as stay longer or transit visitors. How do we ensure that we have it fixed for all of us to ply our trades, to enjoy and live in there? What technology can we leverage to ensure that, to you, Rita, who intends to put up a building on an empty plot that you've just acquired somewhere in the city, or to make a modification to your house, that you have drawings that you must carry physically to City Hall, to some office, queue up, and have interaction with someone telling you things you don't understand, and possibly also create an opportunity for them to ask a bribe from you. She's saying, no, we can find an application, for example, where you're able to upload your building plans. They are routed through a proper appraisal system. They are either approved or rejected, and reasons given. So you pick it on the other end. You pick it up from the other side. That you do not have to all line up at our division headquarters and all that to pay with physical cash your trading licenses. That there should be a portal where you apply and get your road license, your trading licenses and the things of that nature. You must be able, for example, to read the traffic situation of the city from the comfort of your phone in the bosom of your bedroom, that you're able then to map out your routes, harnessing technology. And a lot more. So KCCA, for example, at the moment has over 60 apps that are being tried. Some are already in application, to ensure that much of our service delivery is online.
Yeah.
You can't imagine that, for example, we have a Weyonje project. It's called Weyonje, which is into fecal sludge management, how you empty your toilets and the like. That slum dwellers don't really even have to call or whatever. They have an app on which they can ask the cesspool emptiers,
to come by.
Absolutely. So that making life easy for the Kampalan. Top agenda. Infrastructure. Whatever you are hanging us for in this city, Rita, is as a result of infrastructure that does not meet the billing. But also the supervision of the infrastructure that we are building, both as private citizens and the authority as government. What kind of buildings are coming up here? Are we able to enforce proper buildings that are going to collapse on builders as they work on them, that won't be able to flood when it rains, that are not going to be able to, so that we have a smart city in actual aesthetics, that we have pedestrian walkways, we have gardens, we've got non-motorized transport areas. You should see that beautiful space on Loom Street going down.
I used it this morning.
Absolutely. See? So there are challenges in terms of adherence, because this is a new phenomenon to most of us. And let's not forget, this is a melting pot of all sorts of people. People from my village in Bugangari come with the village mentality and animalistic tendencies, come to the city, find non-motorized transport, and they want to stand on chairs. But as a city, we're trying to say, look, the infrastructure should remain, in a good state. And all that should be for the well-being of the people. That what is the well-being of our people? KCCA provides social services, education. You won't believe it. We superintend over 79 schools in this city. Did you know? 8 health facilities.
I know about the schools. The number now I need to be
79.
exact.
Yeah. Then of course we have health facilities. Our health center, Kisenyi Health Center, has for the last 3 years in a row voted, rightly so, by the Ministry of Health as the best health center in the country. So we pride in the fact that we're able to provide, or we should be striving every day to provide social services, education, all sorts of things to our people in a meticulous manner. That we know more of our fabric is eating fresh food. Are we able, even our small spaces in our apartments or in our small backyard gardens, are we able to have good agricultural practices that are good for a city? KCCA is leading that. We have a demonstration farm somewhere in Chanja where you can come and pick, inputs, implements,
Please tell the Ugandan
knowledge exactly on how to, balance between your flowers and the edible fruits that you can have in your backyard. So all this is for the well-being of people. We try to ensure that we improve on our service delivery in terms of our enforcement efforts to ensure that, call them vendors, call them whoever it is, lives in a city where they are working by set rules and standards, and they're able to attract, sales for their products, for their services, and things of that nature. People well-being. That we are able to provide you with pedestrian walkways, jogging lanes and all for your own well-being. So those 3 things is what KCCA is focusing on under the grand ambit of a smart city. And one last one about the smart city is the smart city is not being built by Dorothy Kisaka. It's not being built by her army of 9 directors, deputy directors, managers down the line to an office at KCCA and below. It is incumbent on all of us. And that's why our slogan is, together, without exception, we are building a smart city. It's not for this frontline worker, the mama you find sweeping on the road at 5 a.m. in the morning to ensure that the street is clean. It's not by this garbage collector guy that you always wonder how he manages to eat his chapati atop a stinking garbage truck. It's not by, the traffic warden that is helping the traffic police in directing traffic at choke points into the city. It is for all of us to build a smart city where you, Rita, myself as Simon, our respective children are able to live and enjoy their city and know that we are bequeathing the same to them. They're bequeathing even better to their children.
Yeah. Now I like that you have brought the collective effort that's required. Because I've sat through the interview, this episode, and I'm asking what the authority can do, what the authority hasn't done. But what can the Ugandan who's watching and listening to this podcast do to help us achieve what you have mentioned?
You should have left me to ask you that question because now...
Unfortunately, it's me who's asking the questions today. So,
Rita, we are being hounded for not having the best of roads. I can swear to you like day follows night. The day these roads will be commissioned, and you've seen it on Stretcher, you've seen it on John Babiha, you see it on Lukuri. Now people are complaining there are too many humps on Lukuri because these roads are going to kill us.
Yes.
You know how Ugandans
Yes.
are. We like to enjoy to the greatest extent, throwing all caution to the wind.
Yeah.
Just enjoy the roads with reckless abandon. To build a smart city, we must be alive to enjoy it. So there must be that personal responsibility that I'm going to abide by traffic rules. I may be pounding the best of German piece of ironmongering on the street, but I must respect the rules of traffic so that the next person is not encumbered. But number two, Rita, when we dress up these roads with this infrastructure, lights, manhole covers, then the Kampalan comes and steals them. You know what we do?
It's a business opportunity.
Listen, they know how to go up a pole 12 meters high and remove a bulb.
Yes.
And remove a solar panel and dig the ground to pick a solar battery. They know how to remove a manhole cover right in front of a police booth.
But one would ask, how do they know of these things? This must be inside men doing this job.
Well, I don't want to believe that Congolese come here and do that kind of stuff. It's Ugandans. Whatever they do or wherever they come from.
Yeah.
That is irresponsible. Can you imagine? We steal traffic signs.
Yes.
Humps ahead. You find the guy, he cuts that
And takes it.
I've seen a person trying to dig out road reflector moment. You know those reflectors on roads?
Yeah.
I think they want to take them to their houses so they can act as disco lights. I just do not know.
I feel like you're attacking a certain group of people now who like lights. But
Let's attack ourselves as Ugandans. Ask ourselves, this infrastructure that you're asking KCCA to put in place, what is going to be your role in protecting it?
Yeah.
When it rains for 5 minutes, it floods for 2 hours in the city. You know why? Not because the drainage channels are not there or do not work.
someone took something.
No, we have clogged the drainage channels with plastic bags, rubbish, and everything in between. We just dump and litter anyhow.
Yeah.
We do not have the discipline of segregating our garbage, of putting it in the right places for it to be collected by the requisite people. So we clog, drainage channels.
With Buvera in particular, this whole plastic.
So those ones get choked. I mean, you go when it has rained to cross over to Munyonyo from Bunga Soya, that down there, you'll find a lake. But when the next morning, KCCA will be there dredging all sorts of polythene and
Out of
other
there.
debris that has been thrown not by Congolese or Kenyans, but by Ugandans, Kampalans to be very exact. But even then, that will not be the worst. These places, Kampala is bestowed with the 9 catchment swamps, geographically, that are supposed to act as breathers for flood water.
They're supposed to take it in.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and possibly many of them lead up to the lake. When I just joined KCCA, I was flabbergasted when I went for a public hearing on the Shinawataka swamp near my home to find out what was going on in the Shinawataka swamp. Rita, they are 69 freehold titles in Shinawataka swamp.
Who's giving them?
Ask who owns them. I was surprised
who?
to see clergymen, big business people. I mean, if you're a clergyman, why are you, of all places, getting a title in a swamp? Like, we don't feel for our children. So it also comes down to personal responsibility. You know, when I talk about responsibility, you may think it's the mama who's selling beans that should throw their garbage in the right place. No, but you, the bourgeoisie,
Yes.
the tycoon, why, of all places you can put up a factory, why are you looking at putting it in a swamp? Like Kahindu Tafiri once asked, are you a frog? Why don't you live like an amphibian? Why can't we allow our wetlands to do their natural work of seeping out? You asked the beautiful question. Who is allowing these folks?
Yes, because
to
if someone can't see what they should be doing,
at least the law should be able to stop them. At
Exactly.
least someone should say you can't have them.
Yeah.
And guess what? KCCA has seen days. You hear of a report that they are backfilling this swamp. You send enforcement chaps. You arrive there and you are lucky not to be imprisoned by the same guy that is backfilling. You even find police and say, Munangi, this is what it is. Because people that should have the authority to save this country and city specifically from this kind of denigration are at the forefront of doing so. So it's a dicey situation. So we are not reclaiming, come on. And guess what, Rita? Netherlands reclaimed a big part of their land from the ocean. Why? Because they did it smartly and with proper practices agreed on. But here we are so selfish and wanton in the sense that we don't even want to listen to authorities to advise us, if you're going to backfill this part of the swamp, can you put some culverts beneath of this size and ensure that at least water flows from Rita's plot next to you? No, where Rita's plot ends and her culvert stops, that is where I will block. Then, and at the end of the day, when it floods, KCCA.
But you were told.
So when we say that we owe it to ourselves and this city, we need to introspect. Because, Rita, there are some things we are doing to this city in the name of I'm a bourgeoisie, I'm a tycoon, I'm developing. That is setting a very dangerous trend for our children. If we can do it for ourselves. For us, we're already wasted as we are. But we have children who are innocent in all this. And it will be sad when our children look us in our face and say, but Daddy, you were there when this swamp was being chewed up.
Yeah,
what did you do? Or, but Daddy, that's your factory. Why did you do this to us? So we're on a time bomb.
Yeah.
But let's hope that with this introspection and the conversations such as these, and folks like you have got platform. See, Rita, I enjoy having conversations with people like yourself, especially when you give us the opportunity to, because then you do your part. Tomorrow history will judge you right and say, I brought Simon here. I asked him akana na akatano. He was there fumbling around, but at least I made him think of what he ought to do as a city authority employee. But he also challenged us as citizens, and I'm using the word citizen the way I spell it. City as in C-I-T-Y, then Z-E-N. So citizens, we abana chivuga, what we ought to do. The moment we have a convergence on mind that it's together building a smart city.
Well, conversations like this are proudly sponsored by the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. So perhaps there's a thing or two for a Ugandan that has been watching or listening to take.
I've always been wondering where the guidance comes in this national guidance.
It just happened. It just happened. For those that are listening or watching, it has just happened.
True.
So thank you so much for joining us on the Ugandan podcast. I know that we'll be having a conversation less than 36 months, right? Because now the 36 months, we're down to 34.
When I'm back here, Rita, I have a feeling I'll be coming to receive confetti, flowers, and yes, don't forget, there should be a single malt. I love to be in celebratory mood. But if it is not in that direction,
we will still be back here.
Catch me if you can.
We shall schedule a virtual call from wherever. Just get that bite of you telling us what's happening. But we do appreciate you taking time to come to the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, which I do know for you hold some very fond memories, this particular building. And I think a Ugandan would like to know. So share with us what this building meant to you as Simon, who was a young boy back then.
At the risk of giving away how old I am, but I
think you already did. When we're talking about the Sheraton Gardens, you already did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm telling someone I've bounded these streets of Kampala for close to 50 years. There was a time this particular building housed the American embassy at the back and the British High Commission at the front. Just imagine a place today having both embassies in close proximity.
Yeah.
I swear to you, that would be something like a garrison is an understatement. But also interestingly was, my father had a friend with whom they worked at Radio Uganda, who now had who began work as a press officer for the British High Commission, my Aunt Christine. So whenever I would be in town, marauding around and engaging in my usual town picadillos and misdemeanors, and I got hungry or I needed some kind of quench of, for a fresh moment, or just watch a bulletin of the BBC, or read The Guardian, I would simply just walk, go to the reception of the British High Commission, say I'm going to the library, which was a public place. They allowed you to be in there from 9 a.m. to I think 12:30. Public. So you just go in there, sit, fix yourself, a coffee, tea, drink some water, and it had the best AC. So for me, this particular building comes off with very fond memories. And it had a certain look and a feel around it. Then, of course, as I grew older and I realized this very street, Parliamentary Avenue, is where I would queue up in the dead of the night just to get a British visa. And sometimes we would queue up not because we wanted the British visa, but you are queuing up on behalf of someone who's going to come in the morning and pay you. Then you
So that was your hustle back then.
So we've been around for some time.
You really have.
We've loved this city. We've seen it grow from a time there was no traffic jam to a place. Rita, you won't believe it. I've been in this city and I remember fondly when Kampala had no borders, not a single one of them. And guess what? I was already working. I was in this city working, doing the stuff that you're doing. It was incredible. You would walk with a friend along Parliamentary Avenue at 7:30 p.m. and it would look all so nice and all that. Of course, the risk would be if you go down to Nakivo Muse. That one has not changed.
That's why you'd go looking for trouble.
Nakivo Muse and all that. But of course, you'd comfortably walk into Owino Market. You always had a plug for the guy with jeans, the guy with the boots and all that.
Do you still have your plug?
Well, I think they've moved on to Chinese stuff. So, and I think then they haven't left selling children's clothes. I'm now a male adult.
Or you moved on to other stores up market.
Well, I didn't prepare for that part of the conversation, but here we are.
Well, Simon, I think you've left us with something to remember from what Uganda was, what Kampala was then, and hopefully all that we have discussed.
I believe I've grown this old that now I'm even being referred to as a centurion in this place, and I need to give fond memories of
no, but now there will be those that are saying, what? That happened back then? Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of us were like, maybe we understand.
Without borders. No fault to the border guys, and I respect them. They are an incredible part of our fabric as a city. They are making a living and raising families. Just like the same guys you're hounding today. Oh, I've been to the garage 4 times. KCCA. The garage guys are not Congolese. They are Ugandans, they are our brothers. Let them also reap from this windfall, because also their reaping is time-bound. Soon, KCCA will possibly make their role a little more difficult to perform as frequently as they're doing now.
So for those who might be having a few questions, or you have someone who has been saying a few things about KCCA and asking questions about the roads in Kampala and what's going to change, you can definitely share this link with someone. You can subscribe to the podcast, and also you can like the podcast. Thank you so much, Simon, for joining us.
Thanks, Rita, for having me. Most obliged. And of course, thanks to the sponsors of the program, the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. This, for me, is a masterstroke of communication genius in as far as relating of government work and what the citizens expect in terms of service delivery. So kudos to them.
Thank you. On their behalf, I'll take the thank you. This clip will be shared. But thank you. So to all those who watch us every single time an episode is shared, keep you being Ugandan, but also you can tell another Ugandan to be Ugandan by watching the Ugandan podcast. From us to you, until then, be safe.